Happy New Year, everyone. Now, of course, it's not actually like New Year as we know it. It's not December 31st into January 1st. It's the NFL New Year, right? I mean, the NFL changes over at 4 p.m. Wednesday. That's when we're talking here. You might be watching it at a different time, but the NFL changes over at 4 p.m. from the 2023 league year to the 2024 league year. Free agency. That's when deals kick in. People actually go and sign them. That's when all the teams have to be under the salary cap. So it's the new year. So happy New Year to you. Welcome into Sal's house, another edition for you. And I'm really, really excited to bring you today's guest who I've known for a while. I'll get to him in 1 second, but first, always want to thank our terrific sponsors here. And of course, that is Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street. By the way, I say sponsors right now. Sports City Pizza Pub. That's the lone one, baby. We're working on some more, but if you want to sponsor, you can contact me to sponsor Sal's house right here. Got some really great things happening, but right now, the Lone Wolf doing a great job for us. We appreciate it. Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street. Here's the deal, Sports City Pizza Pub. I'm going to be there on the start of the NCAA tournament day, March 21st, Thursday. They're going to have me behind the bar, pouring some drinks, guest bartender. We're going to record a Sal's House podcast. Got a lot going on, so make sure you get down there, 1407 Niagara Street in Buffalo, Sports City Pizza Pub. A guy that I know loves pizza and wings in Buffalo, but he unfortunately moved on to other places in NFL career, but still a great, great part of the media scene, the football scene, and my friend Arthur Moats joins me on Sal's House and in Sal's House. Arthur, what's going on, brother? Great to see you again.
Man, great to see you as well. Appreciate the invitation also.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What is today like, man? I mean, it's the new year. Let's start it. You've been a free agent. You started your career in Buffalo, and we'll get into kind of some of the things that happened here. But after 4 years of playing in Buffalo, you moved on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Walk me through what free agency is like and what it was like for you on this day.
Man, free agency is a whirlwind depending on when you're hitting the market. For me, I was fortunate enough to hit the open market twice in my career, but 3 times realistically was, when I went through free agency. My first time was right after completing my 4th year in Buffalo. The part that made that unique was we were going through the regime change. We had just brought in Doug Marrone. That was his first season there after, 3 years of Chan Gailey. So even with that relationship, it was still fairly new. We were also changing general managers, just shifting over from Buddy Nix, who drafted me, to Doug Whaley and then Russ Brandon. So it was just a weird time. So even the negotiations in-house versus, what you're looking forward to in the open market, it's just a little bit different dynamic. Then I go to Pittsburgh, and it's a very different phase because here, everybody has been a part of this organization for a decade plus. They already have their method, and it's not a carryover of who brought you here versus this is what we're kind of looking for going forward. So in that vein, it was very much the reverse. It was, in a sense, a lot heavier on the internal pressure to stay versus allowing me to technically just hit the market and leave. And then I think of that last time going to Arizona where, it's kind of quiet. And that's when you're starting to contemplate, is this it? Are you going to retire? Do you set a date? All right, if I don't get signed by week 3, I'm going to go ahead and hang it up. And they call right before training camp, and it's all right, let's get on a flight and go out there to Arizona. So in all 3 of those phases, free agency was very different. It took about a week to get signed that first year out of Buffalo. Pittsburgh, like I said, literally the day before I was supposed to go hit the open market with what we're seeing right now, legal tampering period.
Right.
In the middle of that, that's when we agreed to a deal. And then, like I said, with Arizona, it was all the way at the end, right before training camp was about to start. So in all 3 phases, I prefer the one where it was the Pittsburgh because it was quick, seamless, and I got the most compensation for it.
Okay, so let's go back to 2013 into 2014. You end 2013 in Buffalo, you go to Pittsburgh. How did it work? Like, when did you know that you weren't going to be retained by the Bills? Was it kind of your decision, their decision? Like, how did the process play out from the end of the season till you ultimately knew, okay, I'm going to be moving on?
I would say it was a mix. Initially, you have your meetings when the season ends, and it's one set of communication. But at the same time, we also understood, and I understand this a lot more now versus in the moment. In the moment, yeah, you know how it is. You look at it very differently. Your perception is very different. But now that I've had a chance to play 9 years, be retired, going on my 6th year being out the league now, Yeah. Coming up on my
Wow.
5th year, officially being out the league. It's crazy. It happens fast like that, right?
Yeah.
But with that, you just have a little bit more time to look back on and to understand that when you're going through regime changes, that's a part of it. When you're going through negotiations, certain things are going to be said. That's a part of it as well. So for me, I would just say that it made sense for both parties at that time because they were going through a shift. Also, if you think about it, the defensive coordinator who I had my most success under, Mike Pettin, he was also leaving. He took the job to go to Cleveland, to the Browns. So with that, like I said, it was just a lot of moving pieces, man. So, it worked out the way that it did. Yeah, I would have loved to stage, that.
Sure.
But at the same time, I understood, man, that this is a business and, the opportunity wasn't there, but it was somewhere else. And it worked out, almost better than I could have even imagined it. And that's one of the things that you just say, man, whatever the scenario is, you don't fault it. Whatever the experience is, you don't fault it, regardless of how much adversity or whatever negative feeling you might be feeling in that moment. There are still some chances for some positivity to come out of this thing. And ultimately, it worked out extremely well for me.
Now, going back to that particular time, did you just tell your agent, do what you have to do? How much in contact with your agent were you in the process of, figuring everything out?
Oh, man, I was very much in contact. I had actually just switched agencies. I was with Joe Lenta beforehand. And I remember because I wanted to be more aggressive with my negotiations and just be more hands-on with the process of being an NFL player, I went and hired Drew Rosenhaus. And with Drew Rosenhaus, I'm like, you're not going to find another agent that is better than him in my perspective at the NFL level. It was just, the communication that we were having and the communication that was being communicated to him through the team. It just didn't make a lot of sense for us to isolate all of our other opportunities just for this one. So from there, it was Drew. This is why you are here. Go do what you do.
When did you know Pittsburgh was the team? Like, were there other teams involved? Was that very
No, so with Pittsburgh, man, it was they came on right at the end of it. I felt like when free agency was about to start, because I signed about, like I said, a week into free agency. So when it first started, Cleveland, New England, those were the two teams that we were probably in the most contact with. So it made a lot of sense in terms of the Cleveland element of it because of Mike Pettin. And it was like, okay, this makes sense. New England, I wasn't really in that vein. Like for me, I still had that college mentality of that's the rival. I can't go up there. We don't like them, period. But after that, it was just, I remember I got this random phone call from a 757 number, and it's Coach Tomlin.
Wow.
And obviously we're from the same, but 5 minutes from each other back home, man. And he calls me up and he's like, listen, man, I know you've been playing inside linebacker in Buffalo. You haven't played outside linebacker predominantly since James Madison when you were in college. But if you come here, I want you to sign for a minimum and switch back to outside linebacker. And you're not going to get a chance to start because we got Jason Wells and Jarvis Jones, who's the first rounder. But I think that you're good enough that you'll be able to come here and be a guy. And if you do that, we'll reward you with a contract. And I remember looking over at my wife, who, you remember this, Sal, we had just had our little baby.
That's right.
We just had a baby,
who
man.
Now, your little baby who now is how old?
Yeah. Wow. What, 11? Crazy.
Amazing.
Nuts, man. Nuts. But literally, we had just had a little baby, man. And I remember looking at my wife and explaining to her, like, we're going to take less money than we've been making, less money that we could potentially get to go to Cleveland. And we're going to take this chance because of my belief, number one, in Coach Tomlin. That was the sole reason behind it. Nothing other than that. Because with Cleveland, money was going to be better, but I didn't trust the situation. To me, it felt a lot like Buffalo. In hindsight 2020, Mike Pettin was gone within 2 years.
Yep.
So that was the part where it was like, man, I can get some stability. I can get a part of an organization where they've had the same owner. They've had the same GM. They've had the same head coach, same position coach, same defense. When I was in Buffalo, man, I had Chan Gailey, Doug Marrone, two different head coaches. Defensive coordinators, I had George Edwards. I had Dave Wannstedt. And then I had Mike Pettin. 3 different coordinators in 4 years.
Yep.
I started at inside linebacker, outside linebacker, defensive end, 3-4, 4-3. It's just like, man, you don't have any type of stability. You never would know what you're planning for, what you're training for in the offseason. So when I'm thinking about Pittsburgh, I'm like, man, I don't have to worry about any of this. I know today the position I'm gonna be playing. I know today the defense that I'm going to be in. And it never changed in 4 years that I was there. And that was the beautiful part about that. And like I said, that was the real just intriguing part for me to come to Pittsburgh.
And I mean, you were in Buffalo during the drought years, obviously. And as you said, change after change. You go to one of the most stable organizations in all of professional sports. They've had 3 head coaches in their entire history. What's it like walking into that building and seeing that and knowing the culture there and the stability there?
Man, when you walk in the building and you're going by the offices and you see Lombardi.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't hang up any division championships. We don't hang up any AFC championship appearance. We don't care about if you made it to a Super Bowl and you lost, we don't even acknowledge you. And it was just like, wow, this is a different type of animal. And at the same time, with all of that history, you see the legends walking by. Yeah. You see Joe Green daily in the office. At least when I was here, he's a lot older now. But you would see Joe Green, you would see Jerome Bettis. You're seeing, these type of dudes. And you're just like, wow, if they're here, it still matters to them. And if it still matters to them, that means we have to live up to that standard. And it was just a certain level of like pressure that it put on you. But at the same time, you loved it because coming from Buffalo, man, you think about how excited we were when they made that rule that every team had to play on Thursday night football. And that was our mandatory primetime game. And then it was, we're just going to put y'all versus Cleveland or y'all versus Miami because nobody cares about this matchup. But we were on top of the world the first time we got to host a Thursday night game. Man, you come to Pittsburgh and it's like, oh, you're scheduled for 5 primetime. And then we're going to add on flexing you into primetime. It was just a way different experience for me. But like I said, such a night and day to go from that extreme from Buffalo to coming to Pittsburgh. And yeah, like I said, that was the part where, like I said, I really just fell in love with the place because of that.
And then you played in 4 playoff games after not experiencing anything. Or you guys went to the playoffs 4 years. After not experiencing any of that in Buffalo, which is pretty cool for you, obviously, to walk in that type of situation. And obviously, they're trying to build something like that in Buffalo, and they have with the consistency and continuity. Here in Buffalo. I'm a Mike Tomlin fan. I mean, I think he has done a tremendous job. But give us some insight into what he's like as a coach.
Man, Coach Tomlin, man, that's one of those guys that when you're talking about a leader of men, when you're talking about a guy that understands how to speak to your heart, he is that type of guy. Elite level mind in terms of X's and O's, very similar to Coach McDermott. That's the beautiful part. That's why I love what we have in Buffalo as well, because it's very similar to what they've built here in Pittsburgh.
And they were college teammates.
Yeah, I'm like, they are almost like mirror images of each other. Defensive-minded dudes, hard-nosed, smart as heck. Oh, my God, I love it. But that's Coach Tomlin, man. He is the guy that when he talks, he commands the room, but he understands that everybody is their own individual. For me, he might have to motivate me by talking, about being back home, working at the shipyard, because that's something that me and him can both relate to. And we understand when you say the shipyard and you're from the 757, that's something that you don't want to be a part of because you're looked at that as, man, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. But then you might hear him talking to Cam Hayward and he's telling him, I wanted Aaron Donald. I wanted Aaron Donald instead of you. That's a totally different form of motivation. But the reason why he's able to do that is because he loves you and you know that he's coming from a place of purity. And that's the part that, will have you ready to run through a wall for this guy. But then when you talk about putting him on the chalkboard or the film room, I've never been around a guy as smart as him as it pertains to football, defense, schemes. And that's the part where it's just when you compare those two together, a great mind with a great personality that's understandable of how to teach it and articulate it, man, it's a great, perfect storm. And that's, what he's been since coming into the league. And that's a big reason why, he's been able to have as much success that he's had. And when you think or just listen to some of the former players that speak about him, they all speak so highly of him because that has been consistent with him since coming into Pittsburgh.
Arthur Moats, former NFL linebacker, 9-year vet, joins us and me right here at Sal's house. Don't forget, Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street in Buffalo. Great pizza and wings. Going to be there on Thursday for the start of the NCAA tournament, doing a campaign with the American Cancer Society and Real Men Wear Pink, and I'll be behind the bar pouring some drinks. So should be a fun day to watch some basketball. All right, let me fast forward. Go ahead. I want to ask you about basketball in a while because you're Duke. You're in it, and I'll give you that time.
You see it, baby.
I will give you that time. But this one is not as fun of a question. When did you know it was over? When did you know that you weren't going to play in the NFL anymore? And what was that like for you?
Man, so, for me, my ending is different than a lot of people. I always say, man, you got a couple of ways that you're going to get out this league. You get kicked out, you get carried out, or you can walk away. I was fortunate enough to play long enough to be able to walk away. And what I mean is this, I was out there when Ryan Shazier got hurt, and that was the variation of being carried out, right? Yeah. I've seen that extreme. I've been on teams where I'm looking at future first ballot Hall of Famers, and they're telling them, hey, we're not going to pay this anymore, so you can either retire or you're going to have to take your services somewhere else. I've seen that. That's the variation of getting kicked out. For me, when I say I was able to walk away, it was in this sense. Man, I knew after year 7, I was ready to retire. Okay. I vividly remember having a conversation with my wife and one of my older teammates, and they literally were the ones who talked me into coming back for the final year of my season, my final year of my contract in Pittsburgh, because I was already finished. I was like, man, I've made the money. I've accomplished everything. The only thing I'm missing is a Super Bowl. But if I don't get that, I can still be fine. I'm at peace with my career. So I finished up that last year in Pittsburgh, and even after that, I'm ready to retire. I already, in my mind, I'm retired. Like even how I work out, I'm just becoming a lot just relaxed with certain things that I know in my career I would have never been okay with. Right. So then I get to Arizona, and I remember I don't even want to go out there. And I get the call, and I'm trying to talk my wife and agent out of me going out there to Arizona. And they're the ones telling me, no, you need to go out there to Arizona, just because from a financial standpoint, it's like, man, you're not going to be able to find this type of money with this shortest span anywhere else. So you might as well, if you have any ounce of anything remaining that you want to play. I literally get out there. I hate it just because my heart's not into it. Yeah. I end up getting hurt, but I have the option to I could take a settlement right in the moment and then go right back on the market and sign somewhere else and play. Or you could go on injured reserve, and that would effectively end my season for the year. And I already knew I was done. I already knew I did not want to play. I was tired of football. Just when I saw Shazier get hurt and I was a part of his recovery the way that I was, it took my heart out of it from me wanting to play anymore. And that was the part where it was just like, I'm good on this, man. We've done enough. We're good. So when I got that chance to, get on IR, injury reserve, I took it. And yeah, from then on, it was like, I'm just going to get the rehab. And about midway through, it was like, I'm going to go ahead and rehab back in Pittsburgh at the house with my family. And then from there, we were able to go ahead and negotiate they call it like an injury settlement, where I was able to get the amount of, I had to stay on it for a certain amount of weeks. So that way I was credited for the season for benefits and purposes like that. But afterwards, we were able to just, all right, thank you. Hey, I'm off y'all bill. Everybody's good. So that was why I was like, I felt like I was able to walk away in that vein. And ever since then, still healthy, knock on wood. And yeah, man, like I said, it was a great experience for me in that vein. But yeah, I knew after year 7, man, I was done. And yeah, I didn't want to be that guy that just hangs on and, just keeps doing it for the money, for the money, for the money. It was like, that's not me. So
yeah, no, that's a interesting story. And you're right. I mean, lots of guys aren't as fortunate to kind of know, right? I mean, it just, and you were okay with it. You were at peace with it. It sounds like, how it all ended at the end for you. Now, Lex, you go back to Buffalo real quick. You're kind of known for 2 things in Buffalo, and I know you're known for more. I joke, but number 1, doing a show with me. Number 2, ending Brett Favre's consecutive games started streak with a hit you had on Brett Favre. Let's go back to that. The hit on Favre, ending the streak. I mean, that became a deal. That became a thing.
Oh my gosh! Yes,
look, I mean, you're a football player. I get it. You hit people, but you also don't want to be known for injuring somebody. He got injured. He couldn't play the next week. But what was that like?
Clean hits
Yes.
we all love.
Yes.
Ronnie Lott is one of the most feared players in this league, and we love him so much because of how he hit people. He was a clean player, though. Cam Chancellor, clean player, but he was going to knock your block off. Man, when I think of that, I'm just like, in the moment, we kind of like, we'll put it like, in the moment, I didn't know what it was. Right. We talked about afterwards, a week later when he doesn't start, and that's when you realize how big it is when ESPN is saying, "Hey, we're doing an interview with you," and you're like, "Bro, y'all knew my number."
Sure.
Like what? I mean, because Sal, remember, I'm not the first rounder. I'm not the second contract guy. My Pittsburgh success is nothing like what was in Buffalo rookie year as a sixth rounder, and we're starting out 0-8. Yeah, it was very different, man. Very different. But that's one of those plays, man, that I tell people to this day. It's one of my favorite plays personally ever in my career, just because of everything that went into it. It wasn't just a fluky play. It wasn't a play that just happened haphazardly. It was a play where I remember every little detail because of the preparation and the film study and the detailing of the work. And when you talk about just something happening the way that you've envisioned it, the way that you watched on tape, the way that you've practiced it, the perfect storm. And that's why I always tell people, man, it doesn't matter if you feel like you're in that, you got that opportunity right now, because you don't know when it's going to come, but make sure that you are preparing, because when it happens, man, you do not want to miss that opportunity. Because I think to myself, if I'm not as in tune to my film study, if I'm not as locked in as a rotational rusher at that part of the season, do I still chase with the same effort? Am I anticipating him being a quarterback that likes to hold the ball a little bit longer and drift back to where the pressure is coming from? Do I still remember all of those things if I'm not as locked in? And if I don't make that play, how does the rest of my NFL career play out? Because from that play, it was a trajectory that just kept going up. And that's the thing for me that, I really loved, but it gave me a lot in terms of just recognition from a branding standpoint, what I was able to create off the field. And even now, I mean, what it has been able to do, like I said, in terms of just catapulting me off of one play from my rookie season. That's the part where I'm just like, man, I love that play because it just did so much for me, and it meant so much because at that time we weren't winning a lot. And in fact, we still got beat in that game. But that was one of those ones where for me, I could circle and say, I remember every meeting we had leading up to this game and what we were harp on and why we were harp on it the way that it did. And for everything to play out as it did. Granted, it was only one play. It was third play of the game. And after that, we were not prepared for Tavares Jackson. R.I.P. But
Speaking of catapulting, then you and I do Out of Bounds together. It's a local little TV show we had.
Seriously,
Brian
man.
Job, our guy, producing it, making it happen, and that catapulted your media career, right? I mean, now look where you are. I mean,
I just saw you a week ago in Indianapolis at the Combine, both in professional settings, and I told you that. I'm like, man, you're a big reason why I'm here, because without you, I'm not even as interested or even knowing what I'm doing with this type of stuff, man. But when we talk about just the reps, being on camera with you, hearing how you host, things like that, I mean, trust me, all of that has been a part of the development of me, man.
And the preparation, right? I mean, that goes into these things. I think, I think if you're normally natural, you turn on a mic and talk. That's what we do. We have this energy. We do that. Right. But you have to prepare and know your stuff, and you also have to be willing to criticize. You and I talked about this at the Combine, but for the purposes here again, what's it like as a former player when you have to go on radio in Pittsburgh and do your podcast and things like that and say, criticize a player, maybe even a former teammate when you were first out of the league?
Well, yeah, that's the interesting part. I was fortunate enough to play for a long time, relatively speaking, for NFL standards, 9 years.
Yep.
And when I retired, I still had a lot of teammates in this league, whether we're talking Pittsburgh, Arizona. And then, when you look at just how some of the guys are moved around, Jerry Hughes, when I first started, doing media, he was still playing. He still technically is playing.
That's right.
Cam Hayward, this is one of my good friends. He's still been playing the past, couple of years I've been here. And it was weird when it got to the point where, it's one thing to critique performances on the field. And I was like, I never really ran into a lot of issues with that, because I always tell myself, I'm not going to say anything on camera that I would not say to a guy in his face, because I just have that type of respect for them. But I've also been out there with them. So my level of respect for their craft is very different than the majority of people that are going to criticize them. Just when you think about the general population, media, fan base, they haven't played in the NFL. So when they criticize you, it's not going to always come with that same level of understanding as somebody that has done that. So I always, implement that. That was easy. The part that was weird for me was when you have to talk about contracts. Who should still be on the roster and who should not be?
There you go.
Man.
How much they're making, right? Because that's a no-no in the locker room. We don't talk about guys.
We don't do that.
Right.
So for me, that's been something that even to this day, I'm still, navigating through, and I've found some ways, but I don't like it. That's the part of my business where I'm just like, I don't want to talk about guys losing jobs. I don't like talking about coaches potentially being fired. Like, that's not my thing.
Yeah, and for me, I get like, I'm on the flagship station. I grew up in Buffalo, and I get all the you're a homer, you're the company line. But I always say it this way. First of all, it's not my style to just go scorched earth on people, right? I mean, that's just not, you're the same way. We don't do that. Yeah. There are people who do that. But for me, Arthur, even being, not a former player, I just found that building relationships with people and having trust allows you to have that depth of criticizing. Yeah. They'll understand where you're coming from a little more, and you'll also get more information with them.
You get more access.
If you're just looking to go out there and toast them all the time, they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to give you information. They don't trust you. To me, it's about trust. And if I have a good relationship with somebody, then if I have to say, hey, look, that guy was bad today, he's not going to mind as much coming from me. And we can still have a relationship, a professional relationship.
Because at the end of the day, we all would know it's coming from a place of love or a place from good energy. And that's the thing. When there is a disconnect with the relationship and the trust, that is where you run into some of the issues when a report is out, even if it's valid and true. Man, I don't trust the intent that you had when you wrote it or when you made this message. And human nature is to defend yourself in that sense. And that's where you run into some of the stuff that you run into. But I'm with you, man. I just don't think that the story has to be told from a negative space. And I think if you're skilled enough, and sometimes it's a little bit more challenging, but if you are a professional, like we all say we are in this industry, you should be able to articulate the pros and cons of every situation, regardless of how we might personally feel about it. There are always going to be something positive, something negative out of it. So let's not just solely focus on one versus the other. But that's definitely been my mindset with it, man. And like I said, I love the fact that I got a chance to see you already being a part of that, because when we were in Buffalo, we weren't scorching the earth. I tell you that, all right? But we still had to criticize, we still had to critique, and still interview some of these players. And just even how you handle it at times, man, that's something that matters, and it's something that I felt like made our relationship a lot better also.
I appreciate that. Thank you for saying it. All right, let's move on a little bit here and kind of talk a little bit about, well, first of all, let's talk about your life. I mean, you said you had, I remember when you had your first child, we were doing the show together. Now your family has grown exponentially, and everybody, there's so many Bills fans and Buffalo people watching this right now. Give everybody an update on kind of how the family's grown and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, man. So 3 children total, and that's it. Like a good defensive series, 3 and out. All right. So here we are, man. But 2 girls, little man, and man, everybody's growing crazy fast. Everybody is thriving at life, though. For me, man, just enjoying still being married, man. Still enjoying now that I'm retired, the fruits of that labor. I mean, I think of just the memories that I would have with my oldest, Kayla, when we'd watch her running up and down, at the facility. And then I think of when my baby girl was born and how we went through this phase of, all right, if she's born on a game day, how are we going to logistically work this thing out? Luckily, she was born on a show day. So shout out to us finishing up the show and then the baby being born right afterwards, man. All right.
It was amazing. It was absolutely.
I loved it.
I know. And you guys, I know. You make your home in Pittsburgh. You guys, you settled your roots there after you moved there, and that's cool.
We ended up having our baby boy in Pittsburgh, and that was the other part too. So when you throw in, having another child here, we were able to extend our contract, and that was another big part of it as well. But by the time we were done playing, we had 3 children in school, all out here. It was like, we're good. We're set. Like, let's make roots here, but also the location matters. Because we do like to get up to Buffalo. We've been up there for multiple times since then. And that was the part we said, this is a quick 3-hour drive. Well, as long as the weather's cooperating, quick 3 hour drive. Yeah, yeah.
Buffalo,
But
Pittsburgh, Cleveland. You can always go to any other city from these cities.
yeah, seriously. I was
Short
like, I
drive. I
loved
mean,
it.
I
I
always
could
say
get
to
down to
people,
JMU 4 hours. We
there
got
you
the major
go. Last thing
airport.
before I get to JMU, last thing on your family I want to ask you.
Uh-oh.
How old is your son?
Yeah, so my little man is 8 now. He has a birthday coming up next month, though.
Okay. What is your stance on playing tackle football for him?
So right now he's been playing flag, and I told him, man, play flag until double digits when it's time to officially like kick the can from flag and you got to put up or shut up. But I just felt like personally, man, you're going to get everything that you need in flag in terms of skill development, footwork, body control, camaraderie, competitiveness, hand placement, eyes, all of those reads. You get to do everything, and you just take away the physical part, because I think when you're younger, if you don't understand just proper mechanics of tackling, if you're not understanding proper mechanics of how to tackle a person when they're in a vulnerable position, you can hurt somebody. Yep. And if you don't have the correct coaching around, that could also be detrimental. So for me, I just kind of looked at it as you remove that variable with flag. So that's why I have him in flag. But trust me, he wants to play tackle. He's all for it. And I don't shy away from tackle. I'm fine with him playing it. I just believe that it has to be done the right way. And I think all of us would agree the NFL has done a great job, since I've been in the league, and definitely since I've been retired, promoting and doing better jobs of educating some of the youth football coaches to understand heads up tackling. I mean, I remember hearing how coaches would coach people to tackle with their head and hitting them. And it's like, you wonder why people were having some of the injuries that they were having, both the person getting hit and the person delivering the hit. Where now the NFL has done a great job, I felt like, in the initiative of just changing that. And now understanding that, man, football is a great sport. It should never be something that people look at and say, oh, how could you ever put your son out there? No, this is one of the greatest things to teach you life. I've learned so many life lessons from football. That it helped me as a husband, a father, a business owner, everything. But you have to be done the right way. You have to be taught the right way. And I think as long as that's in the situation, man, I'm all for it. But for me, that's the reason why I have him doing flag, because I just personally don't have the time right now, or at least I didn't have the time to dive into the coaching element. But with flag, man, yeah, you're getting everything. You're getting everything. Yeah, because think about, Sal, you've seen week 14 through week 18 in the NFL season, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday practice. What is the difference between what that is and flag football? Minus them hitting on a helmet. What is the difference? You're not hitting nobody. No, I'm trying to get in position in a hurry, and I'm coming to balance. And after that, I'm two-hand tagging at your near hip, because that's going to simulate everything except the tackle, the follow-through. But literally everything that we're doing, we are fast and we do not touch the ground. If you touch the ground at an NFL practice side, they might throw you out. You know that.
No doubt.
You can't hit the ground.
What I love here is, I say this all the time, Arthur. I go and I speak at, camps or clinics or for teams. I do the Trench Trophy every year for my former high school coach. Carl Curris, who unfortunately passed away recently. And I always say, when I get up there, I say, we need to be advocates for this game. It's a great game.
Yes,
we need to be advocates. There's too many people trying to tell us how bad football is. Football's great. But by being that, we have to be honest and say there are challenges and there are things we have to make safer, but it's on us. It's on the people who love the game, who understand it, to be honest.
We're the new ambassadors. We're ambassadors of it. And I look at myself as a retired guy. When we do football camps, I'm a big believer in that, but I'm a big believer in it has to be done the right way. Otherwise, you can get hurt. But if it's taught the right way, and it's enough of us walking this earth that are alumni, that are coaches that have studied this thing and learned it enough, that can implement it and pay it forward for this next generation. So I don't see why that needs to stop right now, because this game is amazing.
I don't know if Max will ever play tackle, but I'm totally for it. I'll help him anyway. But actually, one of the things he's doing now is I have him going up every week working with Joe Licata, former UB.
Hey, absolutely. Yeah, I know Joe. Absolutely.
The biggest reason, actually, it's not just he's learning a lot of things about playing quarterback, but he's a pitcher in baseball, and it's working his core. And Joe does so many. And I'm like, dude, this is going to be great. And Max throws pretty hard for his age, but those cross, sports and what you do there. So we go up and we work with Joe every week. So that's pretty cool. All right. Before I let you get out of here, I appreciate your time. Let's talk about your Dukes, buddy. Sun Belt Conference champions. They're going to the NCAA tournament. I love it. Man, how cool is basketball? But how about the football team? 2 years now in the top 25 after they just go and and move up a level.
Made the jump. Yeah, man. It's been an exciting time for JMU. All of JMU Nation, all the fans have been loving it because, you just never know what to expect. When you're talking about making the jump from 1AA to 1A, it's a lot of teams that die when they make that move, man, or they go from being a powerhouse to being irrelevant. But for JMU, man, they've been able to do a great job with recruiting. They've been doing a great job in terms of being able to offset some of this transfer portal stuff, which also is very challenging at times.
What you felt
very challenging at times.
What do you think about NIL portal?
I like it. I hate the fact that there isn't any type of regulation on it. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't know what that solution is. But I do love the fact that players are able to get compensated, and it isn't like how it was when I was out there where you are scratching, clawing, trying to find 99 cents to get some chicken nuggets for dinner. Because if you ask a coach to go over his house to eat dinner, it's a violation. That to me should not be what this is about, man. So I do love that.
Did you see the hearing and what Nick Saban said? I thought it was really interesting. And of course, he's getting pushed back from people going, well, look how many millions you make. But Nick Saban's right. He's the all-time winningest head coach. And he said, listen, he said, the difference now is, though, anytime I recruit a kid, that's all they want to know. How much money
they want to know. It's a different mindset.
I'm all for getting paid. I'm all for it. I get it. I see it. I agree with all that. Everything you said is right. But there's got to be also a component of I'm going somewhere to be a better person and develop myself as a football player and a human being.
Right. Well, initially, the mindset was collegiate play was pure because it wasn't for the dollar. It was for your love of the game and the best opportunity. And you would have to wait your turn to ultimately become a guy. If there was a sophomore in front of you and if a younger guy beat you out, good luck. But now it's just changed. It's free agency. It's NFL free agency, but at a collegiate space. And it's dangerous because at least when you're doing it at the pro level, we're already established. We already know what we are as players. These guys, they don't develop the same because they're hopping from this scheme to that scheme to this scheme only because of the check. They've never learned how to overcome adversity. They've never really had to develop. And that's some of the stuff that they run into when they eventually make it to the next level. But you look at some of these guys, and this is the horror stories that don't get told. A lot of guys get lost in that transfer portal. That's the part that doesn't get talked about. For every one SEC kid that gets the $200,000 NIL or the $500,000 NIL, it's about 10 other cats that are just in the portal that have lost their spot because they thought that they could do a similar thing. And now the team that they left them has filled that role and they don't have another opportunity. That's that Wild West part. Yeah.
We go to the combine. Brandon Bean said one of the parts of their evaluation is now they dig into why did you transfer? They want the right. If you're transferring for certain reasons, what does that mean about when you get to us? What that's going to be, right? Why are you transferring?
Are you going to leave? Are you going to ask for a trade because we draft this guy, because we signed this guy? No. I need to know, do you have that type of, wherewithal that you're going to battle back, or are you going to be the guy that's going to cut and run? I don't want the guy that's going to cut and run because you followed this game for way too long at this level. It's adversity every year. It doesn't matter what type of team you have. It doesn't matter if you're favored to be the Super Bowl champs or not. In Buffalo of lately, that team has been favored multiple times. I know when I was in Pittsburgh, we were favored multiple times. It doesn't matter. You're going to have adversity. You have to be able to overcome it, and you can't be the type that every time you've had something rough happen, you leave. But that's legitimate concerns right now, man. That's a legitimate thing.
All right. Last one. I'll give you 2 words. You react. Russell Wilson.
Mr. Unlimited. So I'm hoping Mr. Unlimited. I do because it's $1.2 million. That's the thing. If we're talking Russell Wilson for $40 million, no, I don't want that version. I don't want him for $40 million. He's going to cost too much, and he's not that level force multiplier to me. But for $1.2 million, this is a night and day conversation. $1.2 million. Yeah, what are we waiting on? So I love it for that sense. I'm excited to see what a proven and I guess, hungry a version of Russell, or newly motivated or remotivated version, right? Because that's where he's at right now. You've seen him, get shipped out of Seattle. We saw him fail in Denver, but there were a lot of variables with it. And even when we say fail, I'm saying fail from a top 10 in the league standpoint. What he's done the past 2 years in Denver, if this is in Pittsburgh, I mean, they're jumping for joy just because of the quarterback play that they've experienced. So when we're putting it all into that context again, and only for $1.2 million, yeah, this is when you got to have those a move that was a no-brainer. So Mr. Unlimited, hopefully he brings all that and anything else he got going on. All right, we all with it. Let him ride. Let's cook. Whatever it is, just, yeah, it's only $1.2 million.
No Bills Steelers matchup in the regular season this year, but who knows? Maybe they'll match up again in the playoffs. But either way, we're going to stay in contact.
AFC Championship.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. And listen, you can always tell everybody in Buffalo who's watching this, where they can listen to you and find you and get your football analysis.
Yeah, man. So my website is arthurmoats.com, but all my content is on YouTube. I have my main page, Arthur Moats 55. You type that in, but then I also have a Bills page where I do follow and give some of my reactions to everything that's happening up in Buffalo, and that's Arthur Moats 52. All right, so those are the two places, man. But yeah. ArthurMoats.com, man. And of course on social media, anywhere on social media. Whether we talking Twitter, whether it's X, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, it's the Body 52, baby.
My man. Thank you so much. Man, love you and talk to you sometime down the road too, I'm sure. All right. And of course, by the way, and anytime you want, come out to Buffalo. We'll go to Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street in Buffalo. Wings, beer, college basketball. Next Thursday, the 21st, I'll be behind the bar pouring some beer. We're going to do a Sal's House from there. Arthur Moats, thanks for joining me today, buddy.
Let's go, man. Appreciate you again.